Homosexuality has been a touchy subject when it comes to religion and does not have a definitive right or wrong answer. Many people have very different points of view on this subject. Some might say that it is morally wrong and that God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Adam. Others might say that those who identify this way will have a hard life and that they are targeted. Although each religion has its own beliefs, does not mean that everyone who is among that religion follows or agrees with that belief. Homosexuality being welcomed with open arms has been unheard of for quite a long time. Most times, it's just tolerated. Explored today will be the perspectives of Christians, Hindus, and Islams in regards to homosexuality being accepted into their religion and their reasons why. The first text analyzed is one titled, "When Christianity and Homosexuality Collide, Understanding the Potential Interpersonal Conflict." This is a good text to start off with. It is now encouraged for whoever is following along to stop thinking of your own views on this subject and now think about how the person in the situation is coping. There is a constant inner war with someone who finds themselves religious, but also part of the LGBTQ+ community. The writers of this article, Nasruddin Subdi and David Geelan, interviewed several people who find themselves falling under this category and feel like they could share some of their inner battles. The most common judgment was in reference to homosexuality being unnatural. The concluding results of those interviewed and many others were not recognized in this study tended to fall along the same lines. Those that are part of the LGBTQ+ community and are also religious tend to feel this constant inner battle between themselves and their views. Some describe it as a tug of war. Many people in the religious community refuse to recognize homosexuals as part of their religion, and this can be heartbreaking for those involved. The burden that someone in this predicament might be feeling is exhausting, not only to someone that like this affect the person, but also it takes a toll on anyone else who is acquainted to them. Reconciling sexual orientation with religious and spiritual beliefs can be challenging for Christian homosexuals, since many Christian churches teach that homosexual behavior is sinful. A lot of those interviewed claim that they feel depression, guilt, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and alienation. Although the Christian church has now made gay marriage legal, does not mean that the minds of many longtime Christians has changed and will change anytime soon. Christians have been working to be more inclusive towards homosexuality, and although they claim that they are trying, homosexuals still find themselves feeling the same way within their own community. Switching our mindset for this next part, we're going to be understanding homosexuality, transgender identity, and intersex conditions through Hinduism. Helping us to do this today is Amara Das Willem with his book Tritiya Patrika, People of the Third Sex. This article was less like the first, which related a lot to emotional and inner demons of homosexuality. This book was written to help the reader gain a greater understanding of the way Hindus refer to homosexuality and their understanding of what is happening. In Hinduism, homosexuals are referred to people of the third sex. These are people that are male and female by nature, not identification, meaning that they were born that way and did not change to be that way. This article has a broad range of topics like lesbians, svarini, gay men, kliba, transgenders, shanda, intersex, napumsa, and bisexuals, kami. These fall under the broad category of third sex. Within the Hindu faith, it is hard to accept homosexuals without them taking on the role of a specific gender. In simpler terms, people who do not produce offspring are considered failures and are delegated to the lowest ranks of society. This is in fear of most homosexuals. Homosexuals and transgenders are presumed to assume a heterosexual role against their nature, and intersex babies are forcibly assigned male or female corrective surgeries. When these artificial attempts to negate the third sex are performed, the arrangement of God can be devastating for the individuals involved. Concluding, though, it is the duty of the Brahmins to encourage all members of society in many spiritual practices recommended in the Vedas, which includes people of the third sex. No one is to be excluded or discouraged from these practices because of class, character, social standing, gender, race, etc. These practices purify the heart and remove all bad and unwanted qualities. The individual's importance exceeds and corrects all personal disqualifications. Switching our mindset yet again, the next discussion topic is in regards to Islamics and what their say is in all of this. The response is definitely more complex than others. When looking through the eyes of medieval Westerners, it is evident that Islams were allegedly tolerant and sometimes even encouraging towards sexual practices between people of the same sex. At the same time, though, the liberal sexuality of the modern Western world is, in turn, perceived as an indication of the growing decadence of the West. The heightened visibility of Western homosexuals was what many Islams considered the decay of the Western culture. This was followed the decreased criminalization of homosexuals. Moreover, it is wrongly assumed that Islams are more disposed to homosexuality than they actually are. When any conservative states attempt a protest or a movement, they will always be repressed from homosexual activities. It will be seen as yet another symptom of westernization. The Quran, which is a religious text of Islam, explicitly condemns homosexual acts and does not follow up with a specific punishment. Some traditions of the Prophet might display tolerance. Other traditions of the Prophet say that both active and passive partners must be killed. Islamic laws condemns homosexual practices and homoerotic sentiment. Mutual attraction between people of the same sex is considered natural and normal. Discussed first was Christians' homosexuality from the perspective of the homosexual and their feelings. This article will attempt to make clear the views of Christians in more general terms. Christians love to say that God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Adam. When referring to the book of Genesis, it is evident that sexual intercourse and everything related was created to procreate. Christians do not agree with people of the same sex or homosexuals to engage in sexual activities with someone of the same gender because it is a sacred act performed to have offspring. It would not make sense for them to do so if it is impossible for them to procreate successfully. In the book of Leviticus, homosexuality is deemed forbidden with the quote, "If a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them had committed abomination, and they shall surely be put to death." In some of St. Paul's letters, he refers to homosexuality as unrighteous and claims that men who practice homosexuality will not inherit the kingdom of God. Others might say that they are just following their natural inclinations, which is how God made them, and that should not be condemned. Although this commentary is very black and white, most Christian churches hold the position that you should love the sinner, but hate the sin. This is interpreted that fellow Christians should love and show compassion towards the homosexual, but not support the homosexual acts. This is because most churches say that sex should only happen between and during marriage, and that marriage is between a man and a woman. Skewing away from specific religions for this last part and just looking at homosexuality and religion in general. This article is addressing the statistics that have been taken, asking people if their attitudes towards homosexuality have changed at all with all these protests and movements. 63% of people say that homosexuality should be accepted into society. 47% say that they are born either gay or lesbian. 54% say that there's no conflict between religion and homosexuality, but this can be biased. Most people that suffer choose to suffer in silence because they're too scared to come forward or speak up. This could be in fear that they will be judged or tormented. Millennials are the group of people that is most likely to say that they are gay or lesbian. This does not necessarily mean that there are more gays and lesbians among the millennials than, let's say, the boomers. This is due to the fact that homosexuality has been accepted and appreciated to a certain extent never seen before. A lot of people are more comfortable with coming out of the closet because they feel that they have lots of support from fellow homosexuals and even heterosexuals. Even though homosexuality is at a record high in these recent years, does not mean that religion accepts them to the same extent. Religions can be much more picky in terms of what they deem acceptable, as we discussed before. This can result in very low self-confidence in those homosexuals that are also religious. Concluding off this presentation strong, I can say with no hesitation that every religion has their own way of handling this. This is something that cannot change overnight and will require time and dedication. One day, we will live in a society, though, where everyone is equal and no one is discriminated for the way they choose to be human, because at the end of the day, we're all humans and we should all have each other's backs. Thank you.